Hi everyone, my name is Perica. I'm a co-founder of the platform. Thank you all for joining us to the second webinar on the Iceland, on the hidden trails of Iceland. We had such a blast on the first webinar that we really had to repeat it again, and we actually had people asking about it. So thank you all for joining again. Alberto, so our host for today is Alberto Ojembarrena of Amarok Adventures. He moved to Iceland a few years ago and started creating really unique trips with astonishing imagery that I'm sure you'll like. And so Alberto will give a presentation on his Hidden Trails of Iceland trip, telling you everything you need to know about it, and with great images and some technical details. And after that, we'll move on to the Q&A session. For the Q&A, you can leave us your questions in the chat, or you can leave them in the Google form that was sent to you in the registration email. And without further ado, I'll give the word to Alberto. Let's just enjoy the journey, and we'll talk later on more details and the questions you have.
Okay, the stage is mine.
The stage is yours, Alberto.
Okay, great. So hi everyone, my name is Alberto. Once again, I'm here with 57 Hours for talking about Iceland and about the Icelandic hidden trails. Specifically today, we are gonna be talking not just about the entire country of Iceland, we are gonna be focusing on the Icelandic Highlands, one of the most remote and isolated places in the island I live. So as Perica said before, I have my own adventure travel agency called Amarok Adventures with my partner Monica. This is us. We are both mountain and glacier guides. So in my case, I do belong to the Association of Icelandic Mountain Guides that is built on the New Zealand Mountains Guide Association system, and I'm a certified mountain and glacier guide. And Monica, she also belongs to the AIMG, that is the International Federation of Mountain Guides Associations. So we were both born actually and raised in Spain, but we have been living in Iceland for the last, I think this year, actually we made 7 years living in here instead of 6. So, and in here we found the perfect place for develop ourselves as mountain guides and for just going hiking everywhere and spend most of the time that we can on the mountains. In my case, I've been guiding also in South America, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands. Monica, she has been guiding in German Alps, Scotland, and Nepal. Okay, so what are we gonna be covering today? We're gonna be talking, of course, about Iceland. We are gonna be talking about the Laugavegur trail that is, according to National Geographic, one of the most beautiful trails in the world. And then we are gonna talk about our alternate option that we normally try to do, that it's called the hidden trails. It's a trail made for us. Then we will cover a bit about logistics, mountain hats, the gear that we are gonna need. And then we will have a small time for Q&A. Okay, so it will be your time for you to ask. So this is Iceland. For those who know it, where we are. For those who do not know where we are located in the North Atlantic Ocean between Scandinavia and Greenland. Okay. Normally we know this place, as I said on the previous webinar, as the island of ice and fire, because not just because Game of Thrones, the famous TV series, also because in this 3,000 square kilometers, 103,000 square kilometers of surface, we have about an 11% of the island completely covered by ice. And then on the other side, we have about 130 volcanoes with 30 active volcanic systems. So actually Iceland, it's a pretty alive country, or a pretty alive island, we would say. And as you can see in here, let me put this, you see this, Iceland is divided between different regions. So this would be the capital area. And then we have here the Reykjanes Peninsula. That is where the Keflavik Airport is located, just in here, in this part of the peninsula. Then we have just in here the south coast, and then coming up through this the east fjords, then the north area of Iceland. Pretty famous this last weeks because of a new Netflix Eurovision film that you might have seen with Will Ferrell. Actually, I have a kind of love and hate with this actor. And then up in here we have the West Fjords of Iceland, another really wild and amazing place. And finally, the Snaefellsnes Peninsula, the one that inspired Jules Verne in its novel Journey to the Center of the Earth. And then we have the Highlands. So the Highlands actually seems to be quite small, but it's about 50,000 square kilometers of colorful mountains, volcanic desert, glaciers, hanging glacier in immense valleys, green cones in the middle of completely death landscape. So it's completely different that we normally think Ireland would be. So before talking about this, we're gonna just cover a bit, as I said, about Reykjavik. We, in Amarok Adventures, we always recommend starting and ending the trip in Reykjavik. That is the Icelandic capital. It's just about 50 kilometers from the international airport. And for example, in here, we always recommend doing a couple of things. The first would be enjoying the public swimming pools, because it's just an amazing experience. I mean, I go almost every day for just relaxing after a long day of working, and after a trip, I can spend hours in the local swimming pool. It's definitely a unique experience all year round, not only for swimming, because swimming pools are an essential aspect of the Icelandic culture. So we do believe, as I said on the previous webinar, that here in Iceland, in the swimming pools, everyone is equal, and this is the place where people meet to openly discuss everything from, I don't know, economic, or about the weather, or about politics, or about the last football matches, everything. So for some people like me, best time for go to swimming pool to a swimming pool here in Iceland, it's during a really bad weather day. I mean, during a blizzard, a snow blizzard, or a rainy, huge day, it's the best time. So normally the swimming pools are filled with geothermal water, with temperatures from 38 Celsius degrees to 45 Celsius degrees. I cannot translate that to Fahrenheit. I'm still missing that part in my brain, but it's really warm. Normally, the best temperature for being in the hot water for the human body, it's about 40 Celsius, more or less. But here in the swimming pools, we can reach the 45 Celsius. And other highlights here in Reykjavik that we normally recommend are, for example, visiting the Hallgrímskirkja. That is the most famous church here in Iceland, or going to one of these food courts like this one in the Old Harbor. Recently, I've just added to the list going to an old place that we are starting taking the people, that it's an old restaurant for the fishermen. So it's a really good place. It's also in the Old Harbor, so it's definitely worth it. Yes, of course, visiting like the old town of Reykjavik and enjoy this kind of landscape. This is a picture of mine. It's this kind of colorful houses are everywhere in the downtown of Reykjavik. So walking down these streets are a really nice experience for doing when you are coming to Iceland. I definitely love coming here. I live nearby, and I try every single day after ending my swimming pool session, we would say, to come just home back through these alleys, and it's just an amazing view. This picture actually was taken before the last webinar, and it was, I think it was 11 in the evening or something like that. Because in Iceland, during the summertime, we have this 24 hours of daylight. So that was really, really, really good landscape. I couldn't resist to take this picture. So definitely,
I think Alberto, it was almost midnight. You told us last time, so it's really cool to
it
have.
Could be definitely. I mean, this last days it has been crazy. We had like, I don't know, 5 days without clouds, and we were traveling through the south coast, and going every day for sleeping, with those clear skies, lot of sun just coming through the window. It was pretty awesome, pretty awesome. I know people, they do not like it as much as I do, but it's really, really an amazing experience for new people coming to Iceland. Okay, so Laugavegur. According to National Geographic, the Laugavegur Trail is one of the best trails in the world. And when we say actually that it's one of the best trails in the world, we really mean it, because you can hike from beautiful orange mountains like this. That this is an insane landscape, full of hot pots and outstanding sceneries. You are working around that you're almost speechless most of the time. So we normally hike from this place to amazing birch forest. So it's completely the opposite thing. And normally we have to cross some rivers on barefoot. We have to hike in deep canyons, enjoying some of the best visual landscapes in the planet. Today, I'm gonna show you some of this best visual landscapes. And trust me, every time I go, it's like a new world over there. It's completely different. It changes all the time. It is not the same discovering these places or hiking these places with fog or snow than with a lot of sun or in a rainy day. Any circumstance, it's just amazing, or at least it's my vision of it. So what happened? Year after year, we saw how this trail has become more and more popular. A lot of groups coming, and when I say a lot of groups, I say big groups. For example, some years ago, we had like a group of 200 people from a foreign company coming to do the Laugavegur Trail, and we start thinking, is there something bigger? Is there something else we could do? Is there something even more epic? And actually, that's how the Hidden Trails was born. So we might say the Hidden Trails is a longer and less crowded hiking trail, but it wouldn't be the main difference. The main difference is that makes it unique is just one thing, that you're going to be hiking alone in the most spectacular landscapes you can imagine. And definitely, when I say I say spectacular, I really mean to. I mean, it's not like a regular landscape you can see anywhere in the world. It's not a normal place you can just take a picture and it's okay. I have this in my country too. Recently, we had this lady that she came, and the first days of the trip, she was telling us all the time, "Yeah, I have this kind of mountains in my hometown in Spain," and I was like, "Are you sure about this?" Yes, yes, yes. This is completely the same. And then we arrived to one place, and she was like, "What is this? This is nothing that we have seen before." So she was really impressed, and definitely, as I said, when I say spectacular, I really mean to. Um, so we will discover some hidden gems, even unknown for some locals. We know some locals here in Iceland that they haven't been ever to some of the places we normally hike during these hidden trails trip. And and even talking to them, they say, "How you are getting there? How is this place? I've never been there." It's a quite amazing experience too. Um, and as I said, actually on the last webinar, you're gonna have to apologize to me uh, because of the protection of most of these places. I cannot disclose the names in here, but I'm gonna show you some pictures that will blow your mind, definitely. Okay. So, as you asked me last time, why hidden trails and not Laugavegur? If you want to do the exact same hike that everyone does, you just can go to Laugavegur and follow the sticks. It's really easy and a really well-marked path. So there's no problem at all. But our main motivation for doing this trail would be to be away from the crowds and to discover really hidden places that look like a science fiction movie. So it's you will see. I cannot. I think I can explain with words. I just have to move to the next slide and show you this kind of landscape. But we are gonna get during the trip the best overviews like this one from the Icelandic Highlands and the biggest glacier in Europe that is called the Vatnajökull Glacier. It's about 8,000 square kilometers, and we are gonna see it from the distance, but you can see almost the whole glacier from some point. So it's just outstanding. We are gonna be hiking among rhyolite mountains like these ones that are the orange and the red ones, but we are gonna be hiking also through this kind of places. That is one of the hidden places I mentioned before. That it's a 10 million year old green flake rocky mountain. So it's something definitely out of this world. Trust me. This kind of mountain is one of the only places like completely different to anything else discovered until now here in Iceland. There's nothing like this. And we are gonna be hiking in this place for an entire whole day, and the landscape will blow your mind. Of course, we have to stick to the market trail in here because it's a really fragile area, but it's something just amazing. I think it's in 2 days. We still have to manage when are we going, and I hope to bring some new pictures of this place because now in the Highlands it's still full of snow everywhere. So it's gonna be quite amazing to find this place once again. And also, as I said before, we are gonna be discovering new places, and we are gonna be hiking in places like this that is called Langisjór, that are an enormous lake that were not discovered until the 19th century. Also, we are gonna be hiking in another place that was not discovered until the 19th century. That is the one that we call the Ragnarök fires that we are gonna talk before, and I will show you this picture of the big red crater that you saw last time and you were so impressed. So normally, yeah, Langisjór would be this. That is one of the stages of the trip. And normally during the trip, we do not speak just about the geology of these places or the wildlife of these places. We also speak about, for example, the legends that we have in here. So every place in Iceland has its own legend, as the giant in Landmannalaugar in the rhyolite mountains, or the petrified fighting trolls, as these ones that you can see in the pictures that are in a place called Skylinga. We will be, yeah.
How big are these rocks, Alberto?
These ones can be the highest one. I think it's about 2.5 meters high, more or less. We normally like to call them lava trees because of the shape that they have. That's pretty amazing. I mean, yeah, you cannot find something like this in everywhere in Iceland. Normally, you can find this kind of lava fields completely flat or doing different kind of shapes. But this kind of lava trees are just amazing because, as you can see, this would be how do you call it? Trunk. It's the trunk of the tree, and here in the top you would have all the leaves and everything. Well, actually, this up in here is just the Icelandic moss, the millennial Icelandic moss that is actually protected. So really, really different. Talking about the moss, actually, here in Iceland, we have about 606 different kind of moss. And during the trip, we are gonna see the completely different kind of this, like this one, that is really fluffy moss, but we are gonna see some other kind of moss that are like fluorescent moss. So really brilliant green, like you have been editing a picture and you have taken the saturation mode to the top. So that's outstanding. So as I was saying, we will be crossing some rivers. We will defy our skills crossing rivers in barefoot. Some people can do it in barefoot. I cannot, definitely cannot. So that's why always I have my flip-flops with me for crossing this kind of rivers that are freezing, or it's just water coming down from the glacier. So it's really cold. And we are gonna be arriving to some amazing landscapes like this, that is a black desert close to Skylingar mountain hut. But we are gonna also arrive to the Eldgjá Canyon, that the translation of Eldgjá would be something like the fire canyon. But it's the biggest volcanic canyon on Earth. It's a pretty amazing place, and we are gonna be hiking from the top to the bottom of the canyon, to this part in here. And on the way, we will see Óvarfos, that it's translated as the impossible waterfall. This is actually a new picture I've just added for this webinar. And this one was the oldest one, of course, is the same waterfall, but this one has been taken with a drone. And it's amazing. Completely different season, actually, I have to say. This was at the beginning of the summer. This is at the beginning of the autumn. That's why you can see the moss a bit more yellow than the other one. It's a bit more greener. So during the whole trail, we will be also staying in small mountain huts, like the one here in Altaver, that are quite difficult to find unless you know the trail. Here you have it. So for example, the other day, we got an email from a girl from the previous webinar asking us about if she can do this hidden trails on her own. Well, I have to be clear in here. It is possible, but it's not like the Laugavegur trail. There are not marked paths in here. So it's always good to have a GPS and at least to know the route, or being, of course, with a guide, because most of the route actually is based in old shepherd trails in some parts. But for example, the part connecting Altaut, that is this place, to the other places, it has completely no kind of sticks marking the trail, or there's no a line in the floor, nothing, definitely nothing. So before joining, yes, we just arrived to one of my favorite places. Before joining the last stages of the Laugavegur trail, we will be able to reach one of the most amazing places I ever been to. This, I'm gonna just stop in here. This was the moss I was talking about, the really fluorescent one. That is, it grows close to some rivers and lakes, just in here. In the Highlands, it's amazing. This picture was a bit edited, but not the color, trust me. That's amazing to see how life develops in these lands. Okay, so as I was saying, we will be able to reach one of the most amazing places I've ever been to. And once again, I want to see the faces of the people. Just, let's see. Okay, I have you all in here. And this is it. So this place, it's the place we call the Ragnarok fires. It's just amazing. Actually, you can reach this place, whoopsie, in here. You can see a small trail in here. It's just this part that is well marked. So you can follow this trail for getting into this red crater. So why do we call this place the Ragnarok fires? Well, according to the Norse mythology, it tells us that the Ragnarok was the battle of the end of the world, or the fight between the gods and the giants. So actually, it's believed that the eruption of a volcanic system that was linking the Katla volcano and the Elgia volcanic system, it is believed to have inspired the description in the Icelandic sagas, in the Viking saga, that is the written history of the Norse people living in Iceland. And because of this eruption, uh, we have this landscape that definitely looks like something out of a science fiction movie. This picture was taken at the end of September, so do not expect, well, not at the end of September, middle of September, do not expect to find as much snow as in the picture during the trip. We normally can go to this place until, I would say, September 15th or 16th, but not later than that, because normally it's full of snow in some places and can be pretty inaccessible to get into these places. So this hidden gem is definitely our favorite, of course, and it's just surrounded by volcanic deserts and the moors between the glaciers. So just imagine you are hiking through a black desert, and then you start arriving to a green valley that turns into a red crater, and then you ascend to this hill in here, and then you can see the whole view of this.
This looks really amazing, Alberto.
It is amazing.
I've seen it a few times already, but it always amazes me as the first time.
Yeah.
One thing I like to ask you here is, you mentioned this, like you cannot reveal the names, and I know this is not the local name of the place.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about, like in general, is this like is this a rule on Iceland? Is this a rule in the guiding association you work with? Is this just some ethics that you follow because you want to follow the local, the way local guides work? Just tell us a bit about that, and why are you not disclosing or the names, and also if other guides are following the same principles.
Yeah, of course, there are some people calling this place by its name, but we have this kind of unwritten law in Iceland that is based and not reveal every hidden place to the foreigners. And I mean, it is not because we do not want the foreigners to come, of course. But it's quite impossible to find any Icelander posting the exact location of a hidden gem like this one. This has been quite criticized by some people. For example, the other day, we had a really huge critic in our Facebook, in a Facebook group talking about this exactly. And we have our reasons for doing that. The first one would be the protection of the nature. So last year, we have seen how the tourism in Iceland has increased like a lot. And we have seen how the parking lots were filled with more buses sometimes than cars, how the camper vans have colonized the natural places, and even how small groups have been changed for big groups, as the one I was telling you about before. And I do believe that it's our duty as guides, and of course, as people, to protect the nature and to teach others about the preservation of these landscapes we are every year walking, or the landscapes where we are living the whole year round. So at the end, we have to protect nature. Of course, there are people that they do respect this, but we have a lot of people, unfortunately, that they do not respect the nature in Iceland. And here we are definitely lucky to have this amazing wild nature. I think actually Iceland, Greenland, Alaska, those are just few places in the world that they still have this kind of wild nature. We need to help each other to preserve it. And secondly, also we do not disclosure these names because safety. So normally people, they think they can just reach these places with a small 4x4 or with a small car. We do not have roads coming to here. We have just some gravel or mountain roads, but with huge river crossings. So most of these unknown places, they do not have a market trail for getting to them, as I said before, or they are at the end of a gravel road or mountain road with really deep river crossings. For example, there is one place, Thórsmörk, that for getting to one of the main mountain huts, that it's called Laugavegur, you have to cross the Krossá River, and the Krossá River can have some points that can reach about 1.5 meters to 2 meters deep. That's pretty deep, and you definitely need a big car for doing this. So fortunately or unfortunately, getting to these hidden gems or hidden places, it's not easy. So by not disclosing the exact location, we avoid the people without equipment or without the knowledge to have accidents trying to get to these places. So a couple of years ago, for example, we suddenly have to face one terrible accident getting to Thórsmörk, and it was because a couple decided to cross a river with a small car, and the car was completely destroyed after that. And there was a huge accident. So, but for resuming this that I've said, first would be for protecting nature and then protecting the people. So I think it's a really good thing that we are doing in here. This unwritten law, we the guides in Iceland, we do follow definitely. But as I said, there are a lot of people just disclosing these places. So you are not gonna find the name of the place by a local guide for sure.
Thanks for telling this, Alberto. It's really great that you have this local ethics in Iceland.
Yes, and after this landscape, we will just follow we will continue the trip through this place that is also part of this valley that is full of obsidian stones everywhere, and the Arctic cotton, that is this small flower you can see in here. And of course, on the way to the hut in this place, we will find or we will have the chance of taking a bath in a natural pool filled with a geothermal water. Some years ago, there was a website. I don't know if it's still working. That website that was called hotpoticeland.com, where you can find the exact location of this kind of hot thermal pools, natural pools. On that time, this one wasn't discovered at all and wasn't published at all. So it's pretty nice to arrive to this place and it's completely empty, no one around. And it's really warm. I mean, last summer, it was like, I don't know, 44 Celsius degrees or something like that. It's a mix between a cold river and a natural hot spring. So the mix of the water that can arrive from the cold river about, I don't know, 5 Celsius or 3 Celsius or something like that, to the other that it's about 80 Celsius, a mix between those two. We have this 44 Celsius natural pool that is really amazing before reaching the mountain head. And yeah, so finally we will end the trip with the 3 last stages of the Laugavegur trail. That would be, for example, crossing this black desert full of pink flowers and ending at Thórsmörk. This would be the pink flowers I was talking about. And of course, ending at Thórsmörk, that it's the valley of the god of thunder, that I've just added some new pictures that I think you're gonna enjoy a lot. This would be, for example, another part of the Black Desert I have just mentioned. And those are one of the many bridges that help us to cross some rivers in the Highlands and the canyon on the Markarfjord River. And then this would be Thórsmörk. That is one of my favorite places for just a weekend hike. So normally we try to go during the summer when we do not have groups to this place that is just amazing. This would be one of the new pictures that I took last time. It was like 2-3 weeks ago or something like that. This is Monica, my partner. And this place is fantastic. So imagine just arriving to a place that is like an oasis of birch wood and birch forest and different kind of small and dwarf trees in the middle of the black desert, surrounded by hanging glaciers with big mountains, and just at the bottom of the Eyjafjallajökull volcano, that is this one up here, the one that erupted in 2010. So for me, I definitely think you can get the best views of the island in here. I mean, you can be on the top of a mountain that takes you about 30 minutes, more or less, to go till here, and then you can see this whole glacier with the volcano just below all the ice cap, and this amazing landscapes, and sometimes covered by snow, sometimes with a lot of moss, green moss, and this kind of forests that are just amazing. And it's a really awesome feeling hiking in here. And we normally try to end the trip with a small barbecue with local products. I will show you a picture later. And then the last day would be just return to Reykjavik or Keflavik. Some people, they always want to continue the trip. For example, the other day we got a guy from the last webinar that was asking about the chance of hiking the Fimmvörðuháls trail that goes up to the place where the Eyjafjallajökull volcano erupted in 2010. It's also possible doing that on the last days, like enlarging a bit more the trip. It's not common actually, because after 10 days of hiking, you are normally quite tired. And this trail, the Fimmvörðuháls trail, is more demanding than the hidden trails. You have to ascend 1,030 meters, I think it is, and then descend 1,000 meters in the same day. And you have like to face 25 kilometers in just one day. So normally it is required the people to be really, really, really fit for doing this extra part of the trip. Some people, they just love it. I really like going up to Fimmvörðuháls mountain pass, but of course it is not part of the hidden trails, but an option, of course. Okay, I don't know, Paritza, if you have any question about the trip or something.
I think we'll take the questions in the Q&A session. So we're collecting all of the questions from people, and we will answer everything. Let's go. And I think you will answer some of them in the part about how to prepare and logistics. So let's finish the presentation, and then we'll answer everything that's remaining.
Okay, great. So talking about logistics, I think this part, you might find it interesting for making your trip possible. So yeah, so this would be the day by day of the hidden trails trip. This is the way we do it normally. So as you can see, we walk between 10 kilometers per day to 24 kilometers the longest day. And it's about 5 to 7 hours each day from one hut to the following one. The mountain huts are just basic accommodations during the trip. Some of them are bigger with more people, like the ones in the stages from the Laugavegur trail. That would be Landmannalaugar, Altavatn, Emstrud, and Thórsmörk. So the first one and the last one would be the biggest ones actually. And the others are smaller and with almost no one else than us on the huts. Okay, in the largest huts, sorry, like the ones at the beginning and at the end, we have both running water and water toilets for showering yourself and everything. But in some of them, most of them of the smaller mountain huts, the waters need to be drawn from nearby streams for using it. So most of them, of course, they have showers, but not all of them. That's a really important thing that you need to keep in mind. In all of them, of course, we share bathrooms, okay? Like this one, in here, and and we cook by ourselves. So this would be something completely different to other mountain huts for example, in Europe. I have no idea about the mountain huts in the US, but for example, in Europe, in some of them, you have a meal service, not in here. So there's no worry about carrying your own food in the backpack during the whole trail. We actually do not do it like this. So at the beginning of the summer season, we send in our vehicles some food boxes fill up with non-perishable supplies for breakfast, dinners, and also for some for the meals during the trail. Okay, so right now we have actually add this new picture in here. That is our smaller car that we are gonna use also this summer, because normally on this trip we have a minimum of 7 people who are coming to a trip, but we have decided to how to say it, to make it smaller, the group, so
to reduce the group number.
Exactly, to 5. So now we are using or this small Nissan Patrol or this small Ford Ecoline. As you can see, we need to have this big tires, like 44. This is 42. This is 44 inches for getting in some parts of the Highlands. So these vehicles are the ones that we use not just for taking the food, also for taking the group to the Highlands, and are really amazing. Are actually really comfortable, and we normally have also a small trailer where we put all the food boxes and where we put all the luggage for the people for the first stages. Something important, we are not using the vehicle during the whole trip, just for entering in the Highlands and then for leaving the Highlands. So from Lancashire Mountain Hut in advance, you're gonna be completely on your own with no support from the outside world. I mean, of course, you're hiking with an experienced mountain guide here in Iceland, but you are not gonna have the support of a vehicle in case you are tired or in case you need something. Of course, it's also important to say that as we are 2 in the company, when one is guiding, the other one is standing by in case of an emergency. So if it would be some important thing that we would need to cover, and then any of us would drive till the group with a vehicle for helping in this kind of situation. And
maybe Alberto, just important thing is to point out that the vehicle is logistical and you use it for emergencies, but not for, like, if you're tired, you have to go on.
Exactly.
If there is a health emergency or something, or I know you're all well prepared for that scenario. So just to be clear with everyone.
Exactly. And well, to resume this part, at the end of the trip, we always love to end the adventure with a barbecue with local products, as perishable local fish like codfish or salmon and lamb. That is also really local, that we get from local suppliers and local farmers, of course. Weather. This is one of the parts I love talking about, because normally the people, they cannot imagine that this is like this. So here in Iceland, we have this famous expression: if you do not like the weather, just wait 15 minutes. Okay, it's quite funny, but it's real. So when hiking in the Highlands, you can expect the 4 seasons in the same day. And this is quite insane, but you can get from a really sunny day like this one to a foggy and terrible day with a snowstorm like this in a mountain pass. So this is because the islands are between the 4 main glaciers in Iceland. That would be the Vatnajökull glacier, Langjökull, Hofsjökull, and then the partnership between the Eyjafjallajökull and Mýrdalsjökull glacier. That would be almost 1. So it would be like, because of it, we have this kind of micro weather completely different to other regions in Iceland. So definitely you have to be prepared for this. So, for example, normally the people that they are coming during the summer to Iceland, they think that summer in here is exactly like summer in the rest of the world, or summer like in Europe or in the US. No, summer in here can have the 4 different seasons. So you can have rainy days, snowy days, foggy days, really sunny days, like with almost 20 Celsius, 25 Celsius. This last week we had about 24 Celsius degrees. It was really amazing, but really hot for Iceland. So it's always important to be prepared in this for this trip. About the gear, or about what we do need to carry during the hiking trip. You all know how to dress by lawyers. Actually, if you have been hiking the last years, of course, you this is nothing new for you. But just keep in mind that what I told you about the 4 seasons on the same day. It's quite important to have this base layer, the middle layer, and the out layer. Always important to have waterproof. Here in Iceland, the most common thing is to have a rainy day, but also it's really common last year to have a really sunny day. So you need to find a balance between all the gear that you're gonna bring to Iceland. Also, it's quite important that the sleeping bag, it has not to be a super top sleeping bag with minus 20 Celsius of comfort temperature. This is because in all the mountain huts, we do have a geothermal heating coming from the geothermal water from inside the ground, or in the smallest ones, like the one in Langisjór or the one in Altavot, we have this gas stoves for heating the whole hut. And normally also when we are cooking, the temperature inside the hut it's a bit higher than expected. So definitely you only need sleeping bag between 5 to 10 Celsius, more or less, of comfort temperature, but not less. Definitely not less. Um, Also, I always recommend that despite the guides, we have our own first aid kit. And of course, we all have the knowledge for using it because we have this certification by NOLS of Wilderness First Responder. We always want you to have your own first aid kit in case you have special medicines or similar. Okay. What else? The sandals for river crossing, the hiking sticks that they will help you to keep your balance in the rivers, and a bottle that you are gonna fill with Icelandic pure water. The other day, also, I got an email from one lady of the last webinar, and she asked, is it possible to drink tap water in Iceland? Is it possible to fill the bottle with the water coming from the streams near the huts? Yes, it is possible. Why? Because in the highlands, there are no living animals, but sheep in some places. So you actually can see perfectly that the water is crystal clear. So there's no problem about this in Iceland. We have one of the purest waters in the world, clean water coming directly from the glaciers. And actually, the government here in Iceland started last year a campaign encouraging the people to fill their bottles with tap water instead of buying new plastic bottles. And actually, I have to add to this that you are not going to be able to find any plastic bottle in the mountain huts to buy. So just forget about this. In case you are coming at the end of the summer, around mid-August and September, that are going to be our last trips this year, we also encourage you to have a head lantern, okay? Because that is the time, those are the months when we do have night hours again. So right now in July, we have almost 24 hours of daylight. And that's really beautiful. We do not need head lantern, but from the middle of August, we have regular night hours like in the rest of the of Europe, for example. So normally we have night around 9:30, 10, depends on the day. And so in case you want to go out from the hut during the night for a small walk or something like that, you would need definitely a headliner. Safety. Okay, in this part, I always talk not just as a guide, also I have to talk just as an ex-warden from the mountain huts in the Highlands. So I think I'm gonna tell you what I tell everyone at the information point where I was. So hiking in the Highlands is not like hiking in any other place in the world. You need to have extra safety every day in any moment, and to understand that it's better to return early than to return late. So when I was working as a warden in the mountain hut of Laugavegur, that is going to be the first mountain hut of the of the trip. Last year, we had to go on a search and rescue mission to try to find a hiker that was not listening to our advices. And also, when I was at the information point, of course, I cannot stop the people going hiking. But for example, I found a group of four guys. I do not remember from where, but they decided to go for the Laugavegur trail at the beginning of a snowstorm. They managed to arrive to the following hut, but the day after that they returned completely scared about the conditions that could find in here. So, for example, this other person that she went up alone, she went just before this huge storm, like really huge, and without the right equipment. She didn't know how to use a GPS. She didn't know how to use a compass. Fortunately, we managed to find her on time, but we had some accidents for solo hikers in the Highlands. Of course, you can do it by yourself, but I always recommend if you can do it with a guide. I mean, you are gonna get a lot of wonderful information, not just about the geology of the area, about the wildlife, about legends, about everything. So definitely going with a guide in here, with a mountain and certified mountain guide to the Highlands, it's a really top thing you should definitely do. But of course, I encourage everyone to hike in the Highlands, to come to hike in Iceland, because it's amazing. You can do it on your own, of course, but just be logical. You can do it on a sunny day. There's no need to take risks. And as I said, everyone, smart hiker, return earlier than too late. So definitely, it's a wonderful experience come for hiking to Iceland. What else? What else we couldn't miss? So the first one, of course, with no doubt, the best part of the day, our hot thermal pools. So these hot natural pools are the best part of the trip. Just imagine, we have been hiking for the whole day. I don't know, 15 to 20 kilometers. We are exhausted, and then we arrive to the mountain hut, and then just 5 minutes or 10 minutes from the mountain hut, we have this wonderful hot pool. That's the best part of the day, definitely. Uh, a cold river mixes with a warm water hot spring, creates this kind of small pool. You dip in, and you get completely relaxed after this long hiking day. Also, something else that I always recommend, playing the coup or the Viking chess. That is quite similar to the horseshoes game, and it's a traditional Icelandic or Norse game. So being here, playing this game with your group, in one hand a beer, in the other the wooden sticks, playing, having a lot of laugh, and after a long day and with a small bonfire next to you, that's amazing. So that's really quite magical and authentic. And we always try to play at the beginning and at the end of the trip to this game in the different mountain huts, and sometimes we manage to do it also in the middle of the trips. Depends, of course, on the weather, but it's a really amazing experience. And of course, northern lights. So some people, they do believe that northern lights are only visible during the winter. You are mistaken if you think that. So northern lights are a phenomenon that happens all the year round, but it's necessary to have 4 different conditions. First one, to have darkness. So during the summertime, as I said before, we have almost 24 hours of daylight. But from the last weeks of August, we do have night hours again. And the chances of seeing the northern lights increase a lot. Last year, this is a story that I have been telling the people this is last month. Last year, we saw a fantastic green and purple northern light in Laugavegur. That is one of the stages of the trail. And we were just cooking inside the mountain hut, and we started hearing the people screaming outside like insane. And we went out, and there she was, this green spirit of the Valkyries dancing in the sky with purple colors, red colors, yellow colors. It was amazing. And actually, I have to say that was the biggest one I've seen this year. I haven't done this year, of course, any Northern Light tour, just focus on trying to spot Northern Lights. But this one was, oh my God, insane, insane. So this would be the first condition, to have darkness. The second one would be to have solar activity, because the Northern Lights are created when the solar winds collide with the magnetosphere. And then as less cloudy night we have, it's going to be better, of course. And definitely the fourth condition, and the most important condition, to have patience. So Northern Lights are not going to be there waiting for you. There is no special time. Some people, they say, no, Northern Lights are more, you can see them around 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. No, there's no an exact time for predicting these Northern Lights. So most important thing, patience. You need to have a lot of patience for saying this. And I think, Parita, where are you?
No worries, I'm here. I'm listening all the time. So
no problem.
I think we are ready. And so Alberto, thank you again for the beautiful presentation. We will now move on to the Q&A part. We'll answer all of the questions everyone has. I will just say we had a lot of technical questions that people were asking. So the webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be sent to everyone who signed up via email tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Secondly, 57 Hours is doing in collaboration with Amarok. If you are thinking of joining Alberto on his trip, we are giving away a $200 coupon. You will receive that as well with the email that will go out on the recording. So anyone thinking of joining, you will be able to use a discount to go with Alberto. And Alberto, maybe with the first question that we could have, people are asking it as well, is basically about the details of your trip. So can you maybe tell us, you said that the minimum group size was 7 and some 5. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about like the dates that you're going on this trip, like how many people, pricing, and then we can follow up with some other questions about getting to Iceland in this situation and all of that.
Yeah, definitely. So normally in the hidden trails, the minimum, as I said before, is 7 people for confirming the trip. But this year, we have descended this minimum number of travelers to 5 because of the current situation. Hey, I see myself in here now.
Yeah, we are now.
Great. So as I said before, yeah, we have descended the minimum to 5, and where's the chat? in here so I can see all the questions.
We have all the questions from the chat, so we'll answer we'll ask everything for you, Alberto. You can focus on.
Wonderful.
So.
And also, it's important for me to say that the maximum of people coming to the trip, it's just 13. Okay. Normally, we used to reach between 10 and 13 as maximum, but never more than that. So we always try to focus on having small groups during the trip. The following dates that we are gonna have this year are July 18th, that it's already full. And then we have August 18th, that we have some people signed up for that trip. And also September the 1st to September 12th, I think it is, or 13th, no, 12th. So by now in August and September, we have both people signed up and also still some available spots for the people who want to join us. What else?
And of course, the price of the trip.
Yes, of course. The price of the trip is in euros, 2,550 euros, and it includes everything but the flights and the trip insurance. So once you arrive to Iceland, you forget about everything. You do not need to worry about anything else. We cover the food, we cover the transportation, we cover the mountain huts. You just need to bring all your gear, your equipment, and then just enjoy the trip with us.
Perfect. And then for people interested into coming or signing up for the trip, I mean, we have to cover the topic of COVID. So can you tell us a bit more about how Iceland is, like what are the rules now and what to expect when coming?
Yeah. So on the last webinar, I said something that is completely different to the restrictions that we have now, but it is because those restrictions have evolved on the last weeks. So Iceland borders have remained open to other European Union countries and Schengen states during the whole pandemic, under the condition that passengers quarantine for 14 days upon arrival. But from June 15, passengers can opt for a COVID-19 test, PCR test upon arrival as an alternative to the quarantine. Okay. So right now, travelers from the European Union and Schengen states, Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, Algeria, Morocco, and I think are 10 more countries are more than welcome to come to Iceland. By now, the US are not allowed, but they expect to allow them to arrive on the following months, but it is not clear yet, so we are still seeing what's going to happen. Also, passengers are required to fill out a pre-registration form before departure to Iceland with their personal details, the contact information, travel dates, and the addresses during their stay in Iceland, blah, blah, blah. Normally, for the groups coming to Iceland, with us, we are helping them to fill this pre-registration form because, of course, the people, they do not know where are they going to be staying. So we normally try to help them as much as we can before their arrival. About the PCR test on arrival, the passengers will be charged about 9,000 Icelandic kronas. That the last group that I had this week, the conversion rate was about 57 euros for the test. So I don't know if you remember, Peritza, but the last time we did the webinar, it was 360 euros per test. Now is 57 euros. That's it.
Conveniently, so like 57 hours. So
yeah, exactly.
nice.
They have decided to decrease the price of the test a lot. So if you pay before arrival, you can get the price for 9,000 kroner. If you pay on arrival, it's about 11,000 Icelandic kroner. That is something like 90 euros or something like that.
So you said that US customers are still not allowed to come.
Exactly, not yet.
Yeah, it's better. It's probably better to wait for the rules or plan for 2021 in that case.
Exactly.
Do you have any information on the flights that are happening, or like flights coming regularly from all the bigger cities in Europe?
Yeah, so for example, Icelander, that is the main company, has decided just to open a few airports, and actually there are not so many countries from the European Union or Schengen states that you can fly from to Iceland. Um, and some of these companies, every company has its different rules, but some of these airlines and these kind of companies, they have decreased the size of the people in the flight to 50%, but not all of them. For example, this last travels I had this last week, they came through Frankfurt, and through Frankfurt they had the completely full um, flight, but all the health measures and for stop the spreading of the virus are completely controlled in the planes. They have decided to increase a lot the cleaning in everywhere. The airport and in Iceland, when the people arrive, it's completely empty. There's almost nothing. I took the people today to the airport and was really impressive. I've never seen Keflavik International Airport like this. It was something completely different. Actually, after arriving to Iceland, so the people, they need to decide between taking the PCR test on arrival or going on quarantine. Of course, we got the other day a message that was quite strange. Someone was asking, what happened if I decided to take the quarantine and then I escape? You will be fine, and almost for sure you're going to be taken back to your country. So it's always good to take the PCR test. It's not so expensive. So after taking the PCR test, you do not need to self-quarantine until you receive the results, okay? But you should take quarantine measures to protect yourself and the other people from infection. So it's always advisable not to go into small places with a lot of people and everything. The results take about 6 hours to arrive, and they send you by SMS or through the tracking app that the government has developed. In here, what happens if a passenger tests positive? This is one thing that the people are most worried about. So if you test positive, you're going to be re-evaluated on the following day by the healthcare service and offered to go under more tests that will decide if you have antibodies or if you have an active infection, or you can just take the 14 days. So on, I think yesterday, for example, we had like 1,000 people arriving to Keflavik Airport. Only 7 were were positive on COVID-19, but 5 of them, they had antibodies. So once you have, they detect that you have antibodies, you can just be free in Iceland and hike everywhere. So there would be no problem. In case of an active infection, of course, the passenger or the traveler, they have self-isolate. So foreign nationals were required to self-isolate and that they do not have access to a place for doing this, they will be given accommodation and specialized isolation center that is actually a hotel in the city center of Reykjavik with no cost. So the government would pay all the expenses of these people.
So all in all, it's quite safe. There is, of course, a risk of getting the infection and having to stay in the quarantine, but judging from what you said so far, the risks are really being taken care well by the Iceland government. So cool.
Yeah, well, one thing, one person is asking me on private about if it's gonna be recorded, the presentation. Of course, you can.
Yes, the presentation is being recorded, and the recording will be will be published on 57 Hours YouTube and published and sent to everyone in a follow-up email after this webinar. So no worries about the recording. I think we have to somehow market it better, because we always get the same question and we always publish the recording. So no worries there.
Yep.
And we also had a question. I mean, you told us already in the intro. So how many tourists and crowds are now there when during the pandemic? So can you just repeat what you told us before the webinar started? We had people asking this.
Now we have almost no one. I've been traveling this last week during through the south coast of Iceland and the west fjords of the island, and we were almost completely alone. Almost completely alone. There were just few people. The hotels and guest houses are even more filled up with Icelanders than with tourists. It's the first time I've seen this in 7 years, so I'm pretty impressed. And most of the natural places where we normally are during the trip on the hidden trails, and they also even the touristic places I was this last week. They are almost completely empty. I mean, for me and for the people who's asking all the time if it's a good year for coming to Iceland, definitely it's a really good year. I mean, you can see Iceland like no one has seen before. That's like 20 years ago. No one. Some Icelanders roaming around, and that's it. Mostly
it's really special. So
yeah,
if you're willing to take the risk, which is greatly reduced with all the measures,
yeah.
And you will be taken care of in that case, it certainly is a great time to go. And
Yes.
actually, I love this question so much. So Melanie is asking in the Google form very simply, can I join?
Yes.
So Melanie, you will get Alberto will get in direct contact with you after the webinar.
Yeah.
We have a few more smaller questions. So we have people asking about taking hiking sticks and gaiters. So is that
I've never heard about the gaiters word.
It's what you put on the legs above the.
Okay, yeah. Okay, gaiters are not needed. Actually, hiking sticks we always recommend having a pair at least. Some people they do prefer hiking without hiking sticks. Some people they prefer hiking with just one sticks. For example, in my side, I always hike without, but I always recommend having this hiking sticks for at least crossing rivers. It will make easier this part of the trip, and the gaiters are definitely not needed, so it wouldn't be a problem.
And Alberto, maybe we can touch on we had questions about camping as well. Mm-hmm. So maybe we can touch on that. I know you mentioned that in the huts part, but can you just tell us the general rules about camping in Iceland?
Yes. So normally, most of the time, the people they think that wild camping in Iceland, as in the other Scandinavian countries, it's allowed. Wild camping in Iceland, it is not allowed since 2006 or 2009, I think it was, that they decided that you can only camp in places designated for doing this, that normally are campsites or places just prepared for this. Also, in the Highlands, near the mountain huts, you have some space for setting your tent, and you can use all the facilities close to the mountain huts, but you cannot do wild camping unless the meteo conditions force you to do this. But in case you have good weather, you have to continue until the following mountain hut with the camping area for setting your tent. Normally, here in Iceland, we have this kind of rule that you cannot access to a mountain hut or to a camping area until the toilets actually are set up for the summertime. So normally this prevent, for example, to damage the wildlife in Iceland and of course also the flora. So here in Iceland, we could say that you can camp in some places, like for example this prepared areas or also some private lands if the owner allows you to do this. But most of the island, it's a natural reservation or natural reserve or a national park. So you cannot do this freely do some wild camping.
Cool. Thanks for clarifying that. And also, people are asking about, and you mentioned the drone footage. So, what are the drone flight routes?
Okay, so normally in Iceland, this for flying the drones, you have specified areas where you can fly your drone, and in most of the national parks and in the natural reserve, you cannot do this. Also, you cannot do this near cliffs where birds are nesting or in populated areas. If anyone has a special interest about this, you can just write me an email. I have a whole document that we created some weeks ago about this. You can find in there all the regulations. There is no special certification needed by now, but they want to make this happen. So in the near future, actually, it would be necessary to have the drone pilot certification for flying a drone in Iceland. And if you're flying a drone in a protected area here in Iceland, you can actually get a huge fine. So definitely, you shouldn't want to get this.
We have two more questions in the chat, and I think we can conclude the webinar with those. So Janab is asking if you can see puffins on Iceland.
You can see puffins on Iceland, but you cannot see puffins on the Highlands. You can see puffins on some places in Iceland, like for example, Laugavegur, that is on the western fjords of Iceland. Also, you can see puffins on Dyrhóli, that is on the south coast, or Reynisfjörð, the Black Sand Beach. Also, you can see some puffins on the east fjords of Iceland, and if you try to find them close to Reykjavik, there is some islands nearby that you can also find them. It's also important for you to know that the puffins here in Iceland are not the whole year around in the island. They are only from June that they start arriving to Iceland to late August. So during September, for example, you cannot find puffins in the air. Or even during the winter, you cannot find puffins in Iceland.
And we have one more question about booking mountain huts. Can you tell us if they are all under one organization, how to book them, and all of that? Can you just show up and sleep and just tell us in general how it works? Okay,
so this year I would say that you can just show up and book a place, but just this year because we have almost no people in Iceland, almost no tourists during the Icelandic Highlands. But the mountain huts are not under just one association. They are under 2, 3, or even 4, depends on the mountain hut. So, for example, we have the most famous mountain huts that are under Ferðafélag Íslands. That is like the Mountain Huts Association here in Iceland. Then we have a private association that it's called Utivist, that also that they have also this kind of smaller huts from the shepherds, completely restored, that are just amazing, the best huts I've ever stayed in. And then, for example, you have some mountain huts in a place called Jökulheimar, that it's just in front of glacier, that this hut belongs to the Glaciology Association of Iceland. So it's just a hut for researchers and scientists. So if you want to book a hut, the best way to do this is going to the website. I'm gonna write in here in the chat that it's fe.is. This would be the website for booking the main huts. Okay, so the main huts for the Laugavegur trail. Normally, we do have to do this with 1 year in advance. So we have already booked all the mountain huts for summer 2021, because normally if you do it, I don't know, like 2-3 months before arriving to Iceland, you most likely are not going to find anything.
Okay, Alberto, thank you a lot. I mean, it's always great. I mean, I have to say personally, I could watch this webinar every few weeks. It's super beautiful. So that probably means I have to go and actually do it. And okay, one last thing. So Philippos is asking, what's the name of the private hut association? Can you write this down in the chat as well, Alberto?
Yeah, it's called Utivist. Also, it's important for you to know that the access to the Utivist, that would be something like, the translator would be something like outdoors association. The access to these mountain huts is not as easy as getting to the other mountain huts. I mean, you really need a large 4x4. And when I mean a large 4x4, I mean like the 4x4 vehicle that we use with 44 inches tires for getting to these places. If not, it's completely impossible to get to these places. Okay, so you cannot access with a regular small car to these mountain huts.
Okay, so thanks, Alberto. I will actually end with a note that you already said. I'll just reiterate, Alberto, that while people always ask if they can do these things by themselves, go to the huts by themselves, take the hike by themselves, everything is possible, and you don't need a guide to do these trips. But if you are doing this alone, do your research, be prepared, make sure you have enough experience, enough of a fitness level, and most importantly, take safety seriously. And the reason 57 Hours project started is a guide can enrich this experience and make it basically easier for you to go somewhere, because you won't get lost. The guide will always take care of safety and keep you safe, take care of the conditions and everything, plan in advance. And in trips like this, you will have the convenience of having the sleeping in the huts versus the maybe camping. Food will be taken care of and transported in advance. So all in all, guides will certainly make the trip a lot less stressful and a lot more fun to you, while keeping you safe. During your travel. So it is a bit expensive, but it certainly is worth it at the end. And if you're going at it alone, just make sure that you're safe and that you know what you're doing. So do your research and do your preparation. That is certainly a lot bigger than booking a trip with Alberto and making sure that you're fit enough to do it. So again, thanks everyone. Alberto, thank you very much, and I hope we do a lot more of webinars about Iceland in the future, because I can't wait to see what winter brings. Everyone else, thank you for coming. You will get the recording. You will get the coupon with $200 off in booking this adventure for 2020 and 2021, and you will also get direct contact of Alberto. So you will be able to ask him any unanswered questions. And lastly, we are continuing with our webinars. We have the Polar Adventures webinar by a great Belgian polar explorer, Dixie Danskor. He will show you what you can do in Arctic and Antarctic, and how anyone can prepare for basically expeditions that are a bit maybe more demanding, but also bring bring different joys with them as well. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Alberto.
Thank you very much.
And see you in our next webinars.
And see you, everyone, maybe in Iceland, and hopefully you too, Berita.
Yeah, well, I'm still thinking about it. I have to say that every time I see images or hear you speak, we should come. It is, I'll say, a bit. I actually don't know rules right now in Croatia if you come back from a foreign country.
Okay.
We are having a bit of back and forth here, but Croatia is deemed quite safe as well. So I'll certainly look into the flights for Iceland.
Definitely. I will wait for you here.
All right.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks. Okay, people are thanking. We'll give a minute or two. So
yes,
Alberto, it was really great. I think we had 130 people in total, and judging from the messages we are still getting, people enjoyed the presentation as always.
Nice, cool. Super nice.
Okay, we'll end the meeting now. So thanks everyone, and you'll get an email from us tomorrow early in the day.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.